Hello. So one thing that I've always I've always had a different idea than most people, I think, about is common sense. The phrase common sense. I think it's common we say that a lot of things are common sense when it doesn't really seem appropriate whenever you break the word down, like what really is common sense. And so that's something that I've thought about and I wanted to really talk about. Um, so, well, I think in my experience, most of the time, whenever someone was like, "Oh, you don't know that? That's just common sense." Whenever they've said those things to me, I think that's been whenever I didn't know about something, which is fucking stupid that they said it in that situation. Um, like, oh, you didn't know solar panels use this chip and they convert the solar energy to electricity in this way. That's just common sense. Like, okay, yes, solar panels are common. They're prevalent in a lot of different locations, but just because they're around doesn't mean that I've thought about it before. And just because you've practiced understanding it. You've thought about it before. You've had time to look at how it works. That's not common sense. That's knowledge, right? Do you know about something? That's common knowledge. Maybe you can describe it as that. And the common knowledge isn't something that should be valued as much as common sense should. And actually, I think there's even another distinction that I want to bring up in this video, which is reason. That's really the primary way that I want to distinguish sense from reason and logic versus sense. So I think, yeah, whenever we say someone has good common sense or they're very sensical or that was very sensible, oftentimes I think we misuse that word in describing whenever we're actually really trying to say that something is logical or reasonable. Like, oh, someone does, okay, this is not really a good common everyday example because you're not really doing math in a classroom every day, but I was just doing math in a classroom a few hours ago, so it just comes to my mind. But if someone is doing a math problem well, they follow it methodically, everything they're doing makes sense, they don't break any laws of logic or reason. You can just follow it clearly, it's just step by step, it just passes the criteria that it needs to pass. And then you say, oh, that's sensible, that's a sensible way to do things, that's common sense. Okay, maybe some sort of advanced mathematics is not common sense. Even those people wouldn't say that, thankfully. But you can say, oh, that's sensible. No, that's not sensible, that's reasonable. You're following steps with good reason. You're not using your sense to take care of the problem. Honestly, this sounds almost shocking to think about it, but I think this is a good way of describing what I'm talking about. I don't want to just talk about physical sense, but one way to describe the distinction that I'm trying to make is the fact that we all see that light is blue. That's common sense. It sounds almost kind of funny to describe it that way because it's so literal. It's literally just what the word means. It's common. That means sight, physical sight is prevalent in the majority of the population, the majority of us. So that's common. And sense, one of my senses is sight. One of my physical senses is that I can see this light bulb as blue. But really, that's what I'm talking about. I don't want to focus so much on the importance of physical senses, but more of your sense of perception. I'm always talking about perception. I'm always talking about perception in life and how important that is and how important it is to have good sense in life, to understand the place of different things, the place of different parts of our life, the place of different people in our life, the different relationships, the different things that we do, the place of ourselves in the existence. That's self-awareness. That's also perception. That's also sense. Having a good self-awareness is having good sense. Those things go hand in hand. That's what I'm talking about. And if someone's saying that you have good common sense, what I think that should mean, what that really, if you look at the root word, what that means is this person has good perspective. They have good perspective on themselves. Whatever situation that the person was saying that they have good common sense in, they have good perspective on that situation. They understand the place. I'm talking very abstractly, but fuck you. All my videos are like that. Just get over it. Don't criticize me, because I know. I like the mood I'm in tonight. A little bit more of a, even more so of a I don't give a fuck type of attitude. I have a good amount of that, I think. I know everyone loves to say that though, like, oh, I don't care about anyone. I don't care about this. I don't care about that. I don't give a fuck about anyone. I'm not talking about being cool socially. I'm not talking about not giving a fuck socially. I'm literally talking about not caring about, you know what, I don't even know how to explain this to you right now, but I see the difference in my head. That's not the point of the video. Common sense. Let's make a distinction between that and logic. And let's make a distinction between that and being reasonable. There was another one I said at the beginning of the video, another sort of thing. I honestly forgot. Fuck. This is gonna be a short ass video. I mean, oh, I wanted to say this too. It's funny that there's a certain irony in the people that say, okay, now I thought about some more things actually. Anyway, I think there's a certain irony in the people that say that, oh, that's common sense, you should have known that. Oh, you didn't know benches were made out of plastic? That's common sense. Okay, maybe that one is a little bit of common sense because you can kind of, you can feel the material, you can look at it. Maybe that's a little bit more sensing it. But just some random fact, like fucking, oh, this is a good example. Oh, you didn't know America was founded in 1776? You didn't know the War of 1812 was between the US and Britain? Like, no, I didn't know that. That's common knowledge. That's not common sense. Don't expect random people. Okay, well, Americans, history is important. Yes, I understand that. History and culture is important. But don't write it off as common sense. That's different. Common sense is much more important because common sense is applicable to everything. Common knowledge is applicable in certain situations, under certain umbrellas of society, culture, people, groups of people. But common sense, you can understand any human being with that. You can even understand animals. You can even understand plants. You can even understand basically everything that you can perceive. That's what common sense is applicable to. Common knowledge is applicable in certain facets of life. I don't even want to say life. Certain facets of society, I almost want to say. In general. And so, I think whenever people do this, okay, why does this even matter? So what? I'm fucking redefining a word. Okay, well, first of all, let me say this. The irony that I was mentioning, I think it's ironic because whenever you actually try to be correct about this, what I think is incorrect, I guess, okay, whatever. But whenever you try to actually look at it in the way that I'm looking at it in, it's simple. It's literally, it's simple because you're just looking at the definition of a word. You're breaking down a phrase into two words and trying to understand the meaning between those two words and then put them together. That's like one or two parts, right? It's simple. It's simple logically. It's simple in reason. It's not complex. It's just about perspective. Like I said, it's looking at common sense in this way is common sense. It's kind of funny to think about, but literally what I'm saying is common sense. It's just looking at it and not just rolling with everyone else in the way they use the word, but actually trying to understand it for yourself. And now I'm going a little bit off on a tangent, but it's ironic because those people are trying to use it to knock someone else down, to bring up their ego of being smart. That's the thing, right? Like we all love to say, oh, he's so smart, I'm so smart, because it's a big part of people's egos. It's a big part of people's egos in our society. That's just a very common thing in modern society. I don't know, probably forever. The beginnings of fucking human society, we have formed an ego around being smart, and confusing being smart and being knowledgeable with intelligence, and confusing reason and logic with perception and sense. It is funny that we think we're so smart and we think we're so logical and reasonable, and we couldn't even understand something that's simple. Because it's not, we looked at it in the wrong way. We didn't even fundamentally start in the right way. Because we just had this idea of like, oh, it's so simple, and just, we have this heightened view of ourselves that we're smart, we're intellectual, we're logical, and you just don't even pay attention to the simple things. And then you get it wrong. You see it wrong. I like how I explained that. That was good. That is expressing what I wanted to say. So that's one side of it. And then, okay, why does this matter? I'm redefining some words. Well, let me go ahead and say first off, it doesn't matter that much. Like in terms of like, I'm going to talk about veganism. I'm going to talk about relationships. I'm going to talk about male privilege and women being vulnerable in certain aspects. And those are way more important, obviously. They have larger scale impacts. But why I think it's important is exclusive. Okay, well, first of all, it's important on an individual level to just improve yourself, to try to improve yourself as a human being, and this is something that anyone can do. But it's important in terms of inclusiveness and exclusive. I was trying to say exclusivity, which I don't really think that's a word, or I didn't pronounce it right. Added some extra syllables in there. But it's about inclusiveness. That's the main thing. Same fucking thing. It's about whenever you say things like this, whenever you just write people off like this, like, oh, they don't have common sense because they didn't know about this thing that I just happened to know about because I had exposure to it before. Excuse me. Based on the previous situations that I've encountered, based on my upbringing, based on the people I was around, the schools I went to, the culture I was enveloped in and was brought up in. All of these things that you just happened to be in. Your intelligence didn't do anything except you were just fucking fed knowledge. You were just fed knowledge, and you're using that as common sense to put other people down. And I just thought of a decent example. Think about a foreigner coming to a country, and then a lot of those people in that country almost look at that person like they just don't understand, like they just can't understand certain things. Because they didn't fucking grow up in the same place as you. They didn't grow up with the same language. This is something that kind of like almost pisses me off, because I have immigrant parents whose first language was not English. I understand how fucking brilliant they are because I'm first gen. I had that language and that culture and that household. And then I had the American culture, American household. I'm glad I was challenged to think and see society in some different ways. Because it forced me to truly think about human beings underneath all that, underneath someone's upbringing, underneath someone's culture, underneath someone's language, what country, their nationality, race even. It forced me to think about them as a human being and like, do I really think this person is intelligent, regardless of all of that other stuff, regardless of the things that they've been exposed to? Do I think that they're intelligent aside from the external situations that they've been put in, the difference in the external situations that they've been put in? Because you can't fucking compare apples and oranges, right? And that's the reason why too, I think, you know, in my time at school, I've had good success, above average success with connecting with international students, with connecting with foreign exchange students, because I've had experience with my parents. I've had experience with foreigners as my parents. And I understand that just because they don't see things the way I do in certain ways, that certain things don't come to them as naturally as they did to me, because I fucking grew up in the place. That doesn't mean that they're not brilliant and intelligent and incredible, like way more intelligent than the average person too. And you have to be able to see that in people. I think it's important to see the beauty of that in people. And oh man, you can really just see how brilliant some people are if you really understand what common sense actually is, and you can distinguish that from common knowledge. You're not using these people who haven't had the same exposure as you to boost yourself, to boost your ego about being smart. I know people love to be right nowadays. You know, look at fucking Twitter and politics, and everyone loves to be right and be right over another person about this or that. They love to, God, that pisses me off. Someone that just loves to be right. They love to be smart. They want to sit there and just feel all high and mighty. And well, I'm in a lovely place to see people like that all around me. University, the academics, the intellectuals, so-called. I love ranting about this, but the importance of that is, yes, I've kind of described it. Whenever you are this way, whenever you're intellectually excluding people, don't intellectually exclude people, because you know some things, you can pick apart some things, because that's what the intellect does. It divides. It's like a knife. It cuts things apart. It's true, false, yes, no, integer, decimal, fraction, etc. Right? It divides things. It classifies things. Think of biology. Think of evolution. Phylum, class, order. We're dividing species. You know, those things, it's hilarious, because really, if you think about it, think about biology, think about evolution, think about the different classifications we have, right? For the species of the world, for the species of Earth. Literally, those, if you think about it, in terms of the actual Earth, in terms of the creation, in terms of however the hell this planet started, or how the Creator created the universe, it just helps to provide a relationship between life on Earth. But really, we fucking made that up. We made up the different classifications. We decided that, okay, this is the boundary between human and chimpanzee. Of course, we're using biology. We're using some empirical evidence, yes. But it's still numerical. Like, the percentage changes in DNA between me, a chimpanzee, a horse, a plant, it's all percentages. We're just deciding what the cutoff is, partially based on what we see, that, oh, okay, I look different than this plant. So I'm a different sort of life. And then I'm going to use science to kind of prove that. But we're also, understand that we're we're putting lines in of where we think the division is. It's not simply just some like laws of the universe that we're just uncovering. And this is physics too. I don't even want to say it's just biology. This is physics too. The fact that, this wallet drops down to the ground, I call it gravity. But why does it have to be called gravity? Why does that have to be a theory? Okay, there's a lot of reasoning behind the theory. Maybe we can't challenge. I'm not prepared to challenge the theory of gravity. No, I'm not. I'm not going to say that. Not even close. But the fact that we call it gravity and we distinguish it from other forces, these are all up to us because these are the ways that we classify and understand the world. It's just simply classifying and dividing things like this is simply a means for us to understand the world better. It's not to be right. That's the thing. That's the thing that I'm trying to emphasize so much. We've used a tool. We've abused a tool in such a way that we've become so confused on why the hell we even use the tool in the first place. We think it's to be right. We think it's to be correct. When correct and right are subjective. It's not even, it's we fucking decided what that was. You just popped into the world. We don't understand a damn thing about anything around us. We don't even understand a single atom in this existence in its entirety. We're simply just using whatever we have to describe it in a way that makes sense with whatever we know now. There is no being correct. We're not correct about anything. If you think about like what's absolutely correct, we're not fucking correct about anything. So that's not as important as sense, as just taking in what you know and using whatever you have in the most effective way possible. That's what is valued. That's what should be valued. Not common knowledge, not you fucking read a book and you can memorize it and remember it and you can spew out some bullshit that anyone else can do. We have computers now that can do the same shit. We need sense. We need human beings because my thing, okay, there's artificial intelligence and everything. And you can tell I like physics, I study physics, I definitely see the world. I love science. I see a lot of the world and a lot of my life in that way. But there's still a big part of me, you can tell, with this meditation, spirituality, just the way I am, my personality, my emotions, my relationships. I think other people really bring out this side in me. I think there's always just a certain part of being human that we will never be able to explain with science. I think that's really a main point, actually, of the way I think, the way I live. I think that's something that might be a misconception that people have about me. I'm not religious. And I love physics and stuff, and people might just assume that I live my life by science. But I think that it's almost beautiful, like the way that this existence was designed. I think that there's just a part of being human that we will never be able to explain with science. It's just, I don't know if I can call it supernatural. To me, the way I am, the way I try to be humble, I just say that it's just something that I don't know. But I recognize that I don't know. It's just something so phenomenal that I will never understand by logic, science, intellect, human creations, human tools. I'll never understand it. And so common sense, we should, instead of excluding each other intellectually by our exposure, our differences in exposure, we should be trying to include each other with common sense, common perspective. We should try to be seeing things around us for what they are. Because everyone can do that. Everyone can strive to just see something for what it is. To just see the truth in whatever we see around us. Not just physical things. This is too tricky for me to explain right now. Like to keep going on that, to really explain perception, like what I actually see, because I can't explain it in words. It's just the way I see the world, and there's no words, no thoughts running through my head. I don't know. It's beautiful, phenomenal. It's puzzling. It's something that pushes me to continue trying my best in life. So I like that. I definitely like that. So yeah, we should be trying to include each other by increasing each other's perspectives, by increasing each other's sense, by just trying to see as much as we can. Trying to see as much as we can of other people too, and they try to see as much as they can of ourselves. And we just understand each other and understand the world around us in that way, with sense, common sense. This was a fun one. This was a fun one for sure. I hope it was valuable to some, entertaining to others, and sexy to a few. I really just, I just thought that would sound good because, the rhythm and it has that pattern to it. Whatever. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you in the next video.
Yeah. Ask me what it feel like, staring at the sky so vanilla, telling Kurt Russell, homie, this ain't real life. I'll be making good on my promises. Honesty is confidence, a lot of it is missing, but I realize I could be better than I was. Lighter on my feet, cooking up the soul when we fire up the beat. Let the fire underneath me, higher when I speak, like I'm climbing up a steep tree. Ooh.